What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Trust the Tape. It's good to see you guys. Let's talk Dallas Cowboys football, NFL draft football, all those things. My name is Jeff. And I'm hanging out with former Cowboy scout, the greatest drafter of all time. Make sure you're following him at Crown Global Media on both YouTube and the Tweeter. The great and powerful Bryan Broaddus, who is in Arizona.
Hey, Bri.
Hey, Bri. How are the Rangers looking?
You know what? Got a victory against the Guardians yesterday. So, yeah, excited about that. And then tomorrow they play against the Brazilian team in the World Baseball Classic. So get a little of that. I think you get to see Kansas City and Cuba play today too. So
we got
I'll be scouting up the World Baseball Classic while we're out here. But yeah, good to be with you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much.
All right, a couple things I want to get to right off the top. Donovan Ezeiruaku having a hip surgery, so Donovan Ezeiruaku is basically not going to have an offseason, which makes me very sad. I thought Tyler Guyton getting hurt last year when he did was the worst thing that could happen to this team. I thought he was the most important guy that needed a full camp, needed a full offseason to try to get better. Donovan Ezeiruaku now will not have an offseason to get better. So my question for you to start this episode of Trust the Tape is, who is going to rush the passer for the Dallas Cowboys?
They're going to have to draft one, or they're going to have to sign one, or they're going to have to trade for one. That's I think that's been the plan all along, to be honest with you, Jeffrey. The Ezeiruaku, and talking to people over there, he got hurt after the Thanksgiving game is where things started to kind of go south for him a little bit. So he played through it the last part of the season. And, but yeah, they're going to have to draft it. They're going to have to trade for it. Developing it, I don't think right now, like I said, it's kind of tough because, you needed Donovan to be able to, work on his craft a little bit, continue to try and work on his speed, work on his hands. I mean, the Cowboys with the new coach on board that, is the pass rush specialist and all, that would have been a great opportunity for him to be, out there right out there on the field and doing a lot of things to get ready. So, hopefully it's not a huge setback. I think I say this a lot and people get mad when I do it. I put a lot of pressure on that kid myself, and at this time last year, evaluating him and what he potentially could be. So I feel guilty for some of the things. Maybe he is, I'm not going to say he is who he is, but maybe I was a little too high on him and his ability and stuff like that. And, these kind of setbacks, it's not easy, especially coming off a year where he was good. But, man, I thought you were really going to get a great player, and you still very well might.
So where my brain goes to is I'm going to ask you a question, Bryan, if you're okay with the question. You okay with me asking you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Are you good with trading number 12 for Maxx Crosby? Because I would do it in a heartbeat. I don't love how this is going to look rushing the passer with, even if you add a rookie at 12 or 20, I still think that you're going to be shorthanded and you're going to be asking too much of young players to try to do this. I'd give up 12 in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think I'm into the Dak window of 3 years and I need players now is what I did. I don't, Jerry Jones on the bus was sending all kinds of signals that, we can't draft players that need rehab. That seems to eliminate McCoy. And again, I'm just going through the list of, how they're kind of come to this realization of maybe that Maxx Crosby does make a lot of sense for them just because, you could play him as a stand-up guy. He's done that before. He's one of the best in the league when it comes to playing the run, one of the best in the league when it comes to getting the quarterback on the ground. But I really do believe in the Dak Prescott window here in the next 3 years. And listen, having Bain, Bailey, Mesidor, Howell, any one of these guys that you want to rush the passer would be great. But having Maxx Crosby as that pass rusher would make a huge difference for this defense.
And do you think is that a better option to you than free agency? There's a lot of names in free agency that are pass rushers.
It's the one that I know has the best chance for success.
Yeah.
And listen, you're in this situation because you drafted poorly, on defense especially, and you're going to have to make a big swing at this thing. But I like I said, I continue to just base every one of my decisions on the Dak Prescott window. And that's, when any player you add, I'm thinking like, how could I get this thing back in the next 3 years? How can I get it to where it's once again drafting well? Maybe with Jerry going after some things in free agency and spending some money, things will change there. I asked Christian Parker this question directly to him at the Combine last week. Is the next defensive coordinator on this staff? He says, absolutely.
So a bunch of them. he said, I got a few of them.
I did. I asked him that question. I said, hey, is next defense coordinator on this staff? And he said, yeah, it is. And Christian Parker, if you want to believe in first impressions, his first impression of being face to face with him and listening to him map out a plan, this guy, I think, is built for this. I might be eating my words here in a couple of years, but I think this guy's built for this. And so we'll see how it all plays. But Maxx Crosby, out of all the options that you have at this current moment in the Dak Prescott window, gives you the best chance to get this defense back on track.
Well, Brian, we'll be having a meal for two because I've told people, I didn't, when they hired Eberflus, I was like, we'll see. When they hired Shoddy, I was like, well, that process sucked, but hopefully he's okay. Christian Parker didn't take me long at all to go, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe in this dude.
You know what? I'll say this. There was a lot of people around the league that, and we could say about the Matt Eberflus stuff, there's a lot of people around the league that Matt Eberflus would still be a good defensive coordinator. I think that Matt Eberflus ran into a couple of things. I think he was stubborn, and I don't think he evaluated quickly enough what he had on defense. And I don't think he adapted quickly enough to understand with not having Micah Parsons. But he played the whole summer without Micah Parsons even practicing a down. So that might not be a very good excuse for him. But he was not good, and everybody knows that. I mean, one of the historically bad defenses. But, bad players, bad coaching, really bad combination overall.
My guy Roman Wolf Gaming wants to hear about Caleb Downs because allegedly the Ohio State safety has some knee things that some teams allegedly have flagged at the Combine. And what do we know about that? And if it is something that could cause teams to hesitate, is that a gift to you, or does that put him on the red shirt team where you don't want him because he's hurt?
Well, I believe the Chicago Bears were the first team to find this out. So I'm
good job, Carmen.
That's kind of Carm. Yeah, she's one of the best. By the way, I saw a tweet that she was looking for employment as well. So Carm, she's really, really good at her job. I believe the Bears were the first team to flag this one. I talked to a team last night that did not have a concern about it. They were going through some of their MRIs and things like that, but they did not off the top of their head have anything flagged for this particular player. So this might be one of those 50-50 things that some of the teams are concerned. Some of the teams are not concerned. Just depending on who you talk to, I guess we'll figure out who is concerned and who's not concerned when we get to April. But, the whispers were very, very loud yesterday about that. And so, yes, I believe the Bears were the first team to do this. And then now, like I say, other teams I'm talking to are saying, no, it's not a concern. So we'll see. He's a really, really, really good player. And I want to circle back too, if I could, Jeff. I talked to a team that interviewed Lemon, the wide receiver.
Just seeing the things that were publicly available, looked at Mikhail. Yeah. You know what I'm considering, Brian? I'm considering moving all three of my wide receivers to the second round, just to be clear to the entire world. I don't think there's a number one in this draft. I think there's some good players. But Mikhail Lemon, whatever, you tell me what you're going to tell me, but just watching him in the drills when I was watching, and the coach was like, 75%, boys, we're going to do 75%, and then we're going to run. And Mikhail Lemon went first, and he ran 1 mile per hour, and the quarterback overthrew him by like 15 yards. I'm like, well, you were running 1%. He just told you. And then the interviews is like, he confused me.
He's very quirky, from what I understand. His team interviewed him, but they realized that he is an exceptional player. I had a team tell me, listen, this guy, he goes, we interview a lot of kids that it's kind of hard to get a read on them. They're a little bit quirky, a little bit different. He said, listen, it's changed over the years. Every year it's gotten different about these players and stuff like that. But they were saying, this guy's a hell of a football player. You just got to understand what you're probably going to get here with him. But he is no different than some of the other players that have the same, that are not getting reported by it. So, listen, I'm just reporting what I was told. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to defend him or anything like that. I'm just saying we need to be a little bit careful because I asked another team about him. I said, we're making too much about this quirkiness of this kid. And this one team said, yeah, you really are. You really are. So, take it with what you want. A couple of teams I talked to, both teams interviewed this guy, and there's a little dip in it. But like I said, they said he is no different than some of the other kids that we've interviewed at this place as well.
Who are the other quirky guys, Brian? Williams in the super chat. He said, this is a bad draft to need defense with so many teams needing it picking before you. I think it's quite possible all the good ones gone before 12. And now evaluating that statement, I would say I disagree with the statement, but I understand it. And here's why. On our last night at the Combine, I was doing a live stream each night after the Combine. And I did a mock draft, and you're familiar with my alter ego, Captain Trade Down.
Captain Trade Down.
And so I let him ride in the first one. It was a terrible idea.
Who'd you get?
Oh, it was a terrible idea. I think I ended up picking Keldrick Falk.
Won't be a bad pick.
My guy that was there at 12 was Mansour Delane, and that's who somebody was trading up for. So he was immediately gone. Okay. Even Jermod McCoy was gone. And so I don't think it's that it's a bad draft to need defense. I think it's a wonky year to be picking high, and the spot that the Cowboys are in could absolutely end up with every defender that I would feel good about at 12. You just have to get comfortable with, forget what number I'm picking. Who's gonna help me? And if that means that I'm picking Avion Terrell at 12, so be it. Yeah. And if that means that I'm picking Keldrick Falk at 12, so be it. If we gotta go real early, at least according to me, if we got to go early on your guy Thieneman, you're helping your team. But yeah, it feels wonky at 12 once you lose the top group of pass rushers, Delane, Downs, Styles, and then you go, what are we doing? And you just have to get comfortable with it's a weird year, and you're just picking a guy that's going to help you.
You know what? I think at 12 and 20, if you stand there and pick, you're getting 2 starters.
Yeah,
I really do. I'm not going to doom and gloom this one. I'm not going to doom and gloom this. I think to me, I understand what you're saying. I kind of feel like to the point where you need to figure out about the situation with McCoy. Didn't sound like that Jerry Jones, I know Nick Harris does a fine job with the Fort Worth paper, was putting that out about McCoy, that the Cowboys would have him completely off their board. Jerry Jones said something about that on the bus that, we don't need to be drafting rehab players, so that would probably eliminate McCoy right there. But I think McCoy's going to run for you at Tennessee. I think he's going to show you.
Player if he's ready.
I know but I asked somebody in the organization about what Nick Harris said, and my guy said, "Listen, I can't comment on hurt players. I'm not going to comment on hurt players. I'm not going to make a comment there on that." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." So I don't know. I want to. If you tell me that McCoy is in fact off your board, then okay, that eliminates one of the best. That eliminates one of my top 15 players off my board. For the Cowboys. I'm going to keep him there for me. But there's going to be ways to do this. I don't feel like if you don't feel comfortable, with some of these players, there's an offensive player or two I would draft that if I don't feel good about the defensive player I'm taking here, and Dallas needs a lot of defensive players, don't get me wrong. But the whole idea is in the draft is to draft the best players you can. So I'm totally on board with if that Miami offensive tackle's there. If you don't feel great about one of those defensive players at 12, just take him. Take one of those offensive linemen or take Love if he was there, the running back. I mean, it seems like he's never out of the top 10 in any mock draft I ever see, but you never know. But I think you're going to have an opportunity. If everybody wants to have this conversation about Reuben Bain and short arms and all that, I'll take him at 12. Come on, man. Just bring him on. We'll figure this out. And then we'll get this thing to 20. And if one of those safeties, there's like 10 safeties there, all worked out well. Some of them have that trade of what Christian Parker would like to have with the, he could play in the slot. You could blitz him. You can, I watched I watched a corner yesterday from North Carolina, Dixon.
Dre Bly.
I watched Dixon.
Jesse Holloway.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched Dixon play, and he transferred from Washington, blitzer, slot. There's these corners. Muhammad, look at Everett. There's all these. I think there's players there that you could absolutely take that will come in and be starters for you. So I'm not as concerned about this, but if you want to sit there and think, okay, we can move this pick for Maxx Crosby or something like that, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to stop you from doing that.
Although if you want to build your best team, well, it probably is with Crosby because he's incredible. But I think you could also go the route of if Jerry is serious and you're going to bring down the cap number on all these defensive tackles and you got your money to spend, you could also go get a guy that I think kind of fits what you're looking for and look at the smaller pass rushers in free agency. Talk about Odafe Owe, talk about Kwity Paye, somebody like that. And you could fill in, like in the super chat, the lunatic, Alontae Taylor from the Saints to kind of play the slot, be that tough nickel guy. If you could keep your draft picks and try to find you a nice pass rusher by just spending money, then we could keep building through the draft. And I don't hate the idea of Francis Maui-Noah at all. The Miami right tackle.
That was the whole plan, Jeff. If you had a really good free agency period, you could leave yourself open to taking, keeping your board wide open instead of saying, well, we have to take defensive players. Yeah. So I do. I think your colleague, Clarence Hill there, I think he's clearly on to something. He was one of the first ones I heard reporting about Nakobe Dean. I know there's somebody out there that's going to say, no, wait a minute, this guy, and one of these Twitter people or, one of these bloggers, and I'm saying that in respect. I'm not saying that as disrespect, but there's somebody's going to say, oh, there was a blogger that said Nakobe Dean. I think a lot of us were trying to connect the dots there. And I think Clarence at the combine is on really good information about Nakobe Dean. So, let's see how this all plays out. But yeah, if you have a really good free agency, it'll leave you open to be able to take, keep your board, keep your options open to really taking the best players.
Roman Wolf Gaming says we're dead last on D. Can't make a mistake on defensive draft. Other teams aren't dead last, so they can take an injured player. We can't. It's a risk. I agree you can't take an injured player, but that's, again, it goes back to what I think Brian would.
He's going to work. He's working out. He's going to work out.
I don't know if that's about Downs or McCoy, but I see
what you're saying.
That's a your team, your doctor's thing.
Let me
and say, and somebody might look at something and say, that's fine. And I think let
me tell you a quick story. Can I tell you a quick story about this? There's a couple I had the experience with Jeremiah Trotter. I had that experience when I drafted Jeremiah Trotter.
Degenerative knees, Brian.
Yeah. The doctor told me, I don't know if he's going to play 10 games or 10 years. So I think he played like 14 years is what he did. Okay, cool. I'll give you another one. We were in Green Bay, early 90s. Larry Allen was we're trying to evaluate Larry Allen. Larry Allen's one of the, Sonoma State. We're evaluating the hell out of him. Doctor fails him on a rotator cuff, he's got a torn rotator. It's bad, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, we don't draft him. Cowboys draft him. And then every year that we played in the playoffs against Dallas, Ron Wolf would walk over to the doctor and go, hey, see that number 73 out there? He's about to kill us today. He is about to murder us today. I just want to let you know that number 73 with the torn rotator cuff is about to murder us. So every team's different, man. Every team's different the way they look at these injuries. Sometimes you catch a break. Listen, they absolutely think that they could get something out of Ravel. They do. They absolutely think they could get something out of him. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that he didn't have to wear the brace anymore, which gave him problems sliding all over the place. I want his confidence, get his confidence back where, you threw him in a situation where he was playing like 3 games in 12 days. And all of a sudden, he just, it was just a struggle. He just, if he didn't get hurt in training camp, I don't think, you had all these problems. So yeah, I'm willing to give this guy a chance, but you can't just sit there and say that every hurt guy can't play. You just can't do that because, like I say, I'll tell you about Larry Allen and I'll tell you about, I'll tell you about Jeremiah Trotter and I'll tell you about others that proved everybody wrong.
The lunatic said, does 1 year, $7.7 million for Bobby Wagner fit Christian Parker's scheme? And tell me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine that Bobby Wagner playing as an inside linebacker would be just fine, right?
Yeah, that'd be fine. That would be fine. I mean, and like I said, where I need to now shift and pivot, Jeff, is I've watch so many college players. I need to start watching some of these pro players.
You need to take a nap, Bryan.
No, I mean, I need to start watching because, like I said, seeing Bobby Wagner play. I mean, what the one thing, if you go back and listen to the Christian Parker interview, instincts, downhill, smart, tough, all, he tells you what he's looking for in these players. So
old people.
Yeah, but
he wants old people.
Yeah, he wants people that can play his scheme for sure.
Bryan, please tell Jeff to get Dylan Thieneman. LOL. Everyone has decided that I hate Dylan Thieneman.
You don't.
12.
You don't.
I'd be good at 20, and that
you don't hate him
because he ran a 4.3.
Can I be real honest with you, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
If you had to stack your first round talent, you wouldn't have him in the top 15, would you?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I have 14 first round grades. He's not one of them. So he's higher than 15, and he'd probably be more like 20 for me.
There you go. See, this is where people have to be very mindful if you stack your board. I respect the folks that saw this with him playing it. If you told me I had him in my top, if I have 14 grades, as you said, and he's number 12 on my board, I respect that because you saw it. You saw, the workout was a part of who he is. But you could watch tape and kind of get an idea that there's some things that he's limited in. Please don't let the workout just totally take him from 22 to 12. There's 10 players you can name that you probably would rather have, and that's the beauty of stacking your board and watching these players. This film needs to be 75% of your grade is what it needs. If you're saying, well, wait a minute, he's a top 20, he's a top 12, top 10 player now. Well, you didn't think that way when you first watched him.
Right.
My thing I always tried to teach you guys was don't window dress your board. Take these guys where you really, your first evaluation of your player is usually the right one. It's usually the right one. So, if you think he's the 18th best player on your board, well, good for you. That's where he probably needs to be taken. And he'll probably be taken there at Minnesota at 18 is where he's going to go. Him or McNeil Warren, the safety from Minnesota's hunting a safety. So if you want to get this guy, you're probably going to have to don't go any further back than if you're looking at him and trading back and thinking, oh, we'll get Thieneman. Don't go past 18. Because you ain't going to get him there. It sounds like a safety is going to Minnesota. So my whole point is listen, trust your eyes. You saw him for what he is. Don't let the workout just totally, just move him up there, 15 spots.
No, because I think when you're watching guys, they're not gonna shock. The combine workout's never going to shock me. I don't think.
Oh, man, these guys can train.
Carnell Tate running a 4.5 didn't surprise me at all. My note said he's a really good route runner, and it's kudos to him that he is a vertical threat because he's not a downfield. Burner. He's not a burner, and it's on tape. Thieneman on tape. Holy cow, this dude can his reaction
can cover some ground.
He can run. It's there. So the combine's not giving you new information.
Yeah.
Now, Sonny Styles breaking all the records. It's I knew he was a great athlete. That's already in there. So am I going to move him? No, but it is pretty awesome. The numbers he put up.
Yeah, but that's the thing about it, though. We never really. I know you and I've had some shows where we talked about Styles. I never thought that Styles was going to be there. I mean, me personally, I never thought. I thought media scouts had not caught up to how good of a player. This guy's a top 8 player.
Yeah.
You watch him play. He's a top 8 player. I'm saying media scouts are going to be wrong about this one. The league scouts know what this player is. So to me, let's also remember this though about the combine. Agents spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. They get their players ready in camps, Dallas, Phoenix, down in Florida. They get their kids ready. The kids, they know the drills now. This thing used to not be televised. Now you know the drills.
Yeah.
Now you know what to work on. Now you know, I got to work on the gauntlet. Oh, I've got to work on the pedal, turn, pedal, turn, pedal. I got to work on that. You got to learn. You get to work on. I mean, Nebraska was great at this. Once they figured out the drills in the early '90s, they knew we didn't have 3-cone then. We had the shuttles, the 12, the short shuttle, long shuttle. They learned, once they learned the drills, Nebraska started training their players, and every one of their players did a great job with that. They started practicing taking the Wonderlic test and things like that. So there's ways to improve. Listen, I applaud every kid that put his hand on the line the other day. It means a lot to a scout.
I judge every one of you that didn't.
Delane had a chance to really separate himself from McCoy. Kind of disappointed he didn't take that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think that it confirms something you might have known. Like, let's do. You mentioned Mekhi Lemon earlier, the USC wide receiver. My notes say, hell of a football player. He ain't that big. He ain't that fast. And so guess what? He didn't run. You know why? Because he ain't that fast.
Might not. Get ready. A lot of these guys might pull a Will Johnson on us. Remember Will Johnson last year? Not run at all.
Yeah, and you factor that in. And to me, it's the same thing as the guys who did run. You are checking the box that I already thought. Mekhi Lemon's scouting report to me is he's not big and he's not fast. He's a hell of a football player, but he was going to go run a 4.5 something. And if you don't want to go put that out there, all right. It is going to go down as, yeah, guys, pretty much confirmed that what we thought, probably not that fast or he'd be out there. True Texan said, Brian, good job keeping Bobby and RJ in line. That's hard to do. That's tough.
I'll tell you what, Bobby did a really good job, though. Bobby was in the middle of a lot of things, much like you and, well, Clarence.
I saw him, he walked into me being in the middle of a thing that I didn't mean to be in the middle of, to go get into the middle of a thing.
Yeah, Bobby's not afraid to walk up to get into the middle of a thing. So, yeah, but that's good. I mean, that's what the Combine, to me, the Combine is one of the great tools to learn what's happening in the NFL. You run into people, you see them, you talk to him, you get some information from him, you move on to this lady's telling you something. Now you move on to the next person. It's a fascinating place to learn about football teams.
Dallas would be silly not to draft a ball hawk safety available at 20 from J-Dog. It's such a good safety group, and I hate that the Cowboys don't have second and third round picks in this draft, because especially at safety, there are so many guys I would pick in the second round. So many. And there's so many more I would pick in the third round. Now, not having a second or third round pick today doesn't mean they don't end up with one.
Well, having that 20 is just as good as having a 2. Now not having a 3 hurts, but that 20 is going to be a good pick for you. You're going to get 2. You're going to get 2 really good players.
20 is going to be Colton Hood. It's going to be 20.
Could very well be. Good looking player, Colton Hood.
Good. Roman said, Brian or Jeff, if we trade 12, go Thieneman then? Sure. Fine.
What, trade 12 and they're saying at 20? They're saying that
wherever you go down 2 from 12.
Oh, trade. I see. So good. Yeah. So what they want to do is they want to, as long as you stay ahead of, I think where safeties start to fall. Now I could be wrong about this, because somebody could have. You have to stay ahead of 18. You have to stay ahead of Minnesota. They're looking to replace Harrison Smith. They're looking for their next Harrison Smith, and there's Harrison Smiths out there on this these group, but maybe Harrison Smith that can cover a lot better too. But yeah, I think you have to stay ahead of Minnesota is what you have to do if you want to draft Thieneman.
Find you a second or a third round pick and go ahead and grab Bud Clark.
Bud Clark's a good player.
TCU. Grab Traden Stukes. I didn't watch his film until the other day.
I told you about didn't you know?
Yeah. You say the names, and I'm just like, all right, hold on, put that one over there, put that one over there, put that one over there. And I watched him maybe Wednesday or
Arizona
Thursday.
State.
Arizona.
Yeah, well, no, Arizona State game. He played really, really well. I mean,
okay.
No, man, this kid plays in the slot. He's tough. He tackles.
In past years, he played deep safety. He played outside corner. He played slot. I think physical.
Yeah, there's a couple of Arizona actually has a couple of different safeties.
Yeah, they got the no tackle guy back there, right? I haven't watched Genesis Smith yet, but
he can cover a little bit. Yeah, he can cover a little bit. When you think Jensen Smith, sorry about that. When you think Jensen Smith won't hit anybody, like you watch him step up on the goal line and tackle somebody to keep a back from getting in the end zone. I thought the same thing, and then all of a sudden he tackled a guy, and I'm like, oh, because I was watching Stukes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Jensen Smith stepped up in the hole and tackled this guy in the goal line, and I was like, "Oh God, he does tackle." Oh,
well,
look out!
I'll watch him today, but I'm judging him because our buddy Dane Brugler is very balanced in his coverage, right? Like he's not going to say something super negative about a guy. And I've never heard him as negative as he was like, well, I mean, he's the most tackling averse player. And I was just like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go find him on the goal line. And then I can do like Brian does with a guy he likes. He just hits his clock early to say he ran faster. And I'll just be like, no, he'll tackle. Look at this play.
We'll do that. A lot of scouts did that with Tate. All those scouts saying they had him at 4.47. I was like, yeah, that's from the Bryan Broaddus scouting tree. Is get him at 38 yards. He'll be happy with your time.
No, you just do like the Buffalo GM did, who was up in the booth when when Carnell Tate ran his 40. He'd be like, yeah, that's slow. You can't pick him because he knows he's a hell of a ball player. I dare you to let him get to me. I'll take him in a heartbeat, please. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Enjoy the spring training. Everybody make sure you're following Crown Global Media on Twitter and on YouTube. Make sure you're getting all your best content in there. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, Jeffrey. See you Friday. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a great day. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through. Be cool to everybody. We love you. Be easy.